Hey everyone, welcome to a tutorial on how to save your game in Godot and set up a save file system. First of all, before we start really quickly, I just want to say that me and this other developer, Veta Studios, are working on a game called The Fruit Game. It's available on Steam to wishlist, and there's a public playtest that you can play right now and give us your feedback. So yeah, in this tutorial, I just have a really simple scene. So in the case of your game, you'd probably have a lot more, but I just want to give us some basic data to save and load, just for demonstration purposes. So for me, I've got our time lapse and then our button presses. We're going to be saving both of these. Right now, it's counting up, and then you can click the button. You kind of get the gist. I want to save whenever we close. So when we reopen, the time lapse will be the same and the button presses will be the same. Right now, without the saving, it's just going to reset, obviously. So yeah, let's get into it. First of all, what you want to do is you want to head over to Project Settings, click on that, and over here in the Globals tab, at the very top, you can go over to Globals. You want to add a new node. So this node could be named whatever you want. I'm going to name it Save Manager. And once you've clicked Add, you can save a script. Just going to open that one up. Okay, so an auto load is what we've just added. When we go over to globals, whenever we press add, we're adding like an auto load or a global. This is pretty much like a singleton that we don't have to reference, and we can just call static functions. So two main functions of a save manager that we want is obviously save and load. We can add like another one if you want, like reset, but that's really easy. I'll run you guys through all of those. So first of all, save. What we want to do is we want to have a file location to save. So I'm going to come up here, const save file name. One thing is with our save files, it has to start with this user semicolon // if it doesn't start with it, it's going to save to somewhere in the project files as like a resource, and it's not going to be in a permanent location. So this user // just tells Godot that it's saved in the app data directory, which we can actually go to. This is another game I've implemented it for. It's actually in your app data roaming Godot app user data, and then like whatever the name is. So the typing game, and this is a save game I've set up before. And you can see the data, it's still there. I haven't run this project in a while, but so one thing about this, you can add whatever name you want. So you can do save.game. You know, you can just do that as well. Doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna say save.json. I wanna do save first, so save game. And what do we wanna save? We wanna save some data, right? And this data is gonna come in the form of a dictionary, and then it's gonna return nothing. So first what we wanna do is we want to open the file so we can write the data into it. And we're gonna open the save file name. And then over here, we're just gonna do write file access mode. Alright, what we want to do next is we want to convert our data, which is in the form of a dictionary right now, to a string. So now with the string data, we want to write it to the file. So now we can go save file.store line. And then the line that we want to store is obviously the string data. And then finally, we just close the save file, and that's done. That's our saving. Now in the load game, this is going to take in no parameters, and then instead we're going to return the dictionary. First, we want to check if the file actually exists. So we could be loading the game and we haven't actually written something yet. So if the file exists, then we want to read from the file, right? So we're going to do pretty much what we have on the first line of the save game, which is var save file. And instead of writing, we're going to read from the file. Okay, next what we want to do is we want to create a JSON object. So before we didn't need to create a JSON object because we're just using a static method, but this time we need it for reading the file and passing the string back into a dictionary. And then we're gonna capture whatever string is in the file. Once we've got that line, we wanna actually pass the data. So we're gonna go json.pass string data. And then what we wanna do is we want to actually get the dictionary data from the JSON file. So we go var data. And then we just want to close the save file and then return the data. So what happens if the file doesn't exist? What we can do is we can have like a default save dictionary. So I'll come up here and make a constant. And then this default dictionary is going to contain like your initial values. So, for example, we have the clicks, and that's going to start at 0. And then we also have the time elapsed, and that's also going to start at 0, obviously, but this time it's a float. So what we can do now with this default dictionary is we can pretty much just return that default dictionary. So we're going to go return default dictionary. Cool. So finally, we're going to do our reset save. This one's really easy. So func reset save. And this is just going to call save game and default dictionary. So it's just resetting the save pretty much back to the default dictionary. One more thing we need to consider is some more error checking. So one thing we can do is here, if we open and there's an error with writing, what open's going to return is null. So we're going to check if save file equals null. And if the save file is null, we're just going to push error, or just say error opening file. So some error in opening the file, and we're going to return, so we don't actually go ahead by saving any sort of invalid data. One more thing we can do is do some more error checking here. If we're reading it and there's some error reading the file, we can check if save file is null again. And if so, we're going to push the error, error reading file, and then return. We're going to return actually the default dictionary. Okay, one more thing we can check for is parsing. So if the user like messed with the data file and like removed a couple of characters, then the JSON file might have trouble parsing. So what we can do is we can check if JSON parse returns okay. We're going to include that in that if statement here. If it's not okay, then we're going to push an error and say corrupted data or something like that. And then if we have corrupted data, we're just going to return the default dictionary again. Cool. So that's some error checking for you. And then now we can actually use the save manager in our game. So on ready, we want to like load the data. So we can say save manager dot load data, or load game, I should say. This is going to return the dictionary, remember? So var dict. And in this dictionary, we have two things, the clicks and the time elapsed as well. So one thing to make sure is, make sure these clicks and the time elapsed, what I've got in the quotes, are the exact same to these two things in the default dictionary. So we can set clicks to be equal to whatever's in the dictionary, and we can set time elapsed, whatever's time's elapsed in the default dictionary. So that's loading. And then whenever we want to save it, we'd probably do it on quit. So exit tree happens whenever we close the game, and then we want to just go save manager dot save game. And then in the dictionary, we can pretty much create a dictionary, and we're just saving that data, whatever's in our global variables. That is pretty much it. Now we can hit save and test it out, see if it works. It's going to start at 0, obviously. I'm going to hit save a bunch of times and then close. Open it back up again, and it's saved our data into a save file. You can change the point where you save, obviously. You don't have to save it at the very end. You can save it whenever you press a button. I'd recommend doing something like that. If you want to see the code, the source code will be in the description. In the GitHub repository, you can download that and copy and paste if you're having any troubles. Thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to check out the Steam game. That'd be really greatly appreciated. Have a good day.